Those who don't study history are destined to relive it.
I am only in this moment.
This is a passion. This is what drives them.
I've been reenacting for 7 years. I started off in artillery, and then I moved to infantry, and been doing it ever since.
Really don't know why I do it. I know a lot of people have fantasies about having once been in this time period, that kind of thing. I've never felt that way. I just have a very strong affinity for the period. I was a history major in college, but this is the period that most attracted me, and I just feel like I have to do it. I'm not really sure why, to be honest with you.
This is, in some sense, for a number of people, a way of either examining their own identity through their history, a distorted history, to be sure, but nonetheless a history of sorts. There are other people who are in it simply because this looks like a lot of fun, and they're willing to devote the time to it.
There are two schools of thought in reenacting. There's what I think you can charitably call a mainstream school of thought, which a lot of tents, they allow a lot of modern things to come into the camp. They're not very particular about the uniforms or equipment. They'll let some things slide. Many of them will have women in uniform that are very easily identifiable. Then there's another school of thought that is more the authentic campaigner sort. And we tend to sleep on the ground. We tend to exemplify our image of what an army would be like on the march. So everything we carry with us is what they would have carried on their backs as they were moving from spot to spot during an active campaign. And we think it conveys a better sense of what the Confederate soldier went through during the war than does the mainstream approach.
I consider myself progressive. I'm in between. I won't go as far as going barefooted out walking around in horse manure and things like that. But my uniform, everything I have is period correct. I try to sew everything the way it's supposed to be sewn. If I have to purchase it, I change things to make it look presentable the way it's supposed to be.
We do a lot of school days where we'll go into a school, we'll bring all our stuff, we'll actually fire cannons and things like that, make a whole day of it. The idea is we want to make history live for kids. You know, you can read about the Civil War, but if you don't have a picture in your mind, you probably won't remember it. Well, we provide a picture. It's not the best picture, it's not the most accurate picture, but I'll tell you what, when this gun goes off, they'll remember that. If that gets them to read, I'm happy.
If we can keep one kid from going back and playing a video game, say, boy, I'd like to learn more about that, then I consider that we've done our job.
I love it when the kids come and want to talk about it and they ask me, did girls really fight? And I get to tell them, yeah, they really did. You know, we've got 400 documented female soldiers that fought for a number of reasons, but primarily the very same reasons that the men fought, you know, pride and patriotism and loyalty, and they thought it was the right thing to do.
And we're extremely concerned about the lack of historical knowledge in this country. It is abysmal. I was in Ohio Village about 11 years ago, and I was serving as a federal officer at the time, and I was wearing a full Union officer's frock coat. You couldn't have missed me a mile away. And a high school teacher taking her kids around said, oh, look, kids, there's a mailman. And I about fell over backward. I could not believe somebody would say that. And there's a big sign, Civil War Days, Ohio Village. You couldn't have missed it from a mile away. I just thought, you know, this is why we do it, and this is why we come home sometime and just shake our heads and wonder if this is doing any good at all.
If you're going to learn history, learn every bit of history, not the pick and choose.
And that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
What benefit does it offer to the viewing public? I think it gives some sense to people out there of the magnitude of the conflict, of the brutality of the conflict, but to also see that these are weapons of mass destruction that these people were fighting with. There is a chaos that pervades every battlefield throughout history, and that the Civil War, which has been so romanticized for so long, was no exception.
There's a certain way to die. You got to learn how to do it without hurting yourself. And if it's a real hot day, you go find some pretty young gal, and if you're really nice, she might let you put your head in her lap and might even help you.
Last year, I was in line and we opened a volley, and the next Union volley on us, they fired on us, and I spun around, dropped my gun, and I had a patch with fake blood on it, and they actually almost stopped the battle because they thought I was actually shot in the eye with a live ammunition. And I wasn't, I was just pretending. They actually almost sent out the EMT squad on us. And the way I spin, I'll scream and holler, and I'm crawling around, and I look like I'm looking for my eye, and it looks everybody thinks I'm really hitting the eye.